Good morning to all of you in the Devil Dog Day Trade community. My name's Michael, and I'll be taking you through my day trading setup process for today, December 1st, 2021. Special welcome to all of you who are serving or have served in the armed forces, and of course we do save the best for last here, so a special welcome to all my fellow Marines out there. Semper Fi, Jarheads. For those of you joining us for the first time, we're on a journey together here, and we have people from all skill and experience levels as part of this community. So there will be information presented in ways that will resonate with each level of understanding and experience. If there are areas or comments that I make that don't make sense to you right away or don't resonate, please ask a question in the chat or put a comment in or send us an email, and we'll make sure that we get back to you as quickly as we can for that. Just a reminder here that the feed can be delayed up to 30 seconds on YouTube. So if you ask a chat question and I'll get back to you instantly, that's probably the reason why, but I do check it frequently and have the time left over at the end of the session here to make sure that I cover as many questions and comments as we can. So one of the first things we do here is review anything that happened in the last 24 hours and then also check for what's coming up in the next 24 hours here. We'll do that over on Forex Factory to see if there's any impactful events that may affect our day trading setup. Let's do that real quick. So we'll see here for yesterday, the November 30th, we did have one thing in particular, as you'll see there at 10 a.m. We did have Fed Chairman Jerome Powell testifying before Congress, and I'm going to show you once we get over to our charts what impact that had on the market, just as a good example of why we want to be careful and always check for these events going on. Looking forward to today, we've got something happening right now. Actually, we've got the ADP non-farm employment change. This is basically your unemployment rate. I'm just going to refresh this real quick. You'll see here green number on the chart. That usually means it's a positive thing, although it's oddly enough, if you follow these for long enough, you will see that green doesn't always mean that the markets go up either. So it's interesting how they interpret some of these numbers. So just looking down here, the ones that we care about, anything with a USD next to it is something that we want to pay attention to. So another 10 a.m. here. Again, two things. Fed Chair Jerome Powell is testifying again. So we want to look out for that at 10 o'clock. We also have our ISM manufacturing PMI. And then just another reminder here, the yellow folders in this column right here, if you're using Forex Factory, click on those to get some more information, understanding of what these things mean and how they can impact our trading day setups. And that's really it for today. So let's jump into our charts here. A quick reminder of the order which we go through these. We'll look at index and correlation markets first. And from there, we move on to our futures markets, and then into, index correlations, Forex futures, and then crypto and ETFs and stocks, if we have time to look at some options setups there. So always start with the DAX. The German market's been open for most of the night. It's a good indication of where the U.S. markets may go. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Just showing you quick on the daily time frame here. We had this blue area right here is a weekly demand zone, and so we knew that price was going to move out of here fairly strongly. Jumping down to the hourly, because this is what we brought up yesterday here, where we had a couple of really good looking supply zone setups right above this area, and we said there would probably be some movement out of them, but that we wouldn't take them for long trades, because very rarely will an hourly zone override a weekly one. The higher the time frame, the stronger the zone, typically speaking. And so you'll see the first one here did hit. You can see it right here and drop down. This would have been about a 2-to-1 trade. Or so if you were taking that. So not a bad one, pretty decent for a day trade. But again, you'll see price came right back up through when the markets opened again for the December 1st day for them. So we'll take this one off here. We do have price coming right back up into this upper area of this zone here. But again, I would expect that because of the strength of that weekly zone, while we might see a small move out of there, price is going to continue to move up out of this weekly zone here. So again, just an indicator that the U.S. markets may do the same thing when they open here at 9:30 Eastern time. Moving on to our TradeStation platform for the remainder of our charting views for the day. Starting with the dollar, and Just context-wise, on daily zone, right? We're still in this overall move up. We've got an area of interest here below that we're still watching for if price comes all the way back down to here. Although once you see the zone that worked overnight on the 240-minute chart, you'll see that that may not be as highly probable anymore. But that's just, again, context for our daily zone. Jumping down to our 240-minute chart, though, this is one that's the most interesting, and you'll see here that this this zone that we drew in, our demand zone right here. And we said because of remember the picture perfect zone formation that we're looking at right here, with this stronger leg out versus on the second leg out instead of the stronger leg out on the first leg out right here, that price was going to come further down into this whole zone area. Sure enough, it did drop straight into here and has already popped back up again. We don't trade the dollar here. It is possible to do so. We just use it as a correlation for other markets. So particularly if you were looking at like a euro or a Japanese yen or something like that trade, that you would have used this as an indicator that those trades would have worked in a more highly probable manner. So this one works very well. And has already hit our nominal target here. So again, not trading these, but we just want to track them anyways, right? It hit our 4-to-1. So we can go ahead and mark this as a dotted line, which means the zone has been used, but not completely gone through, and we won't use it again. But again, I still seems like the price is continuing to move up on the dollar. So that's why we are using this. And that's the information that we'll use from this chart here. Looking down at our 60-minute just to see if there's anything that we're interested in throughout the trading day. And again, unless I see something on here, I won't zoom into it. I will actually. I'm going to go ahead and show this right here because this is just you could see where the price changed here and why it changed. Right, this is a perfect example of what one of our zones look like. We've got this drop. Leg candle into a single base and another very, very strong leg candle out. So if you'd drawn this zone right here, look, you can see it literally it worked perfectly, right? Price came right up into it. Again, just another indication. This is why we use supply and demand and not anything else, because supply and demand works much more often than any other strategy you will find out there once you can identify those areas of imbalance. The reason why we didn't mark this the other day is, again, we believe, and not believe, the numbers show us that the overall dollar is in an uptrend. Taking this yesterday or overnight, yesterday, actually about, I guess it's about noon time frame, this would have been a counter trend trade. And for me personally, it's against my rules to take these types of counter trend trades. So that's why I didn't even mark it on here. But again, just a really good indication of what supply and demand looks like and how effective it can be when used correctly. So we'll just go ahead and mark that since it did work right there, and just that gives us a good boundary for where price could move around in there. All right, moving on to VIX. So this is volatility index. This just shows us basically how much the index markets are going to move. Remember, the higher the VIX index, the lower the index markets go, right? VIX goes up, markets go down. VIX goes down, markets go up. Generally speaking, again, correlations work. As one of my past instructors used to say, correlations work until they don't. But these are some pretty highly correlated areas, and that's why we do look at them every day. On daily time frame, the only thing I'll just comment here is, again, talked about this the last couple of days of when price gets outside of the Bollinger Bands areas here. It's just a very good indication, based on math and standard deviation formulas, that price is going to come back down between these lines, and sure enough, that's what happened. Right, this day completely out, next day mostly in, next day almost completely out, and next day completely in here for today. So that's why we're seeing this move down, and why we're seeing the index markets move up right now. But again, there's no zones that we're looking at here. Those are just indicators of where price might go. Remember, we don't trade anything on the Bollinger Bands. We just use them as indicators. So jumping down to our 60-minute chart, is there anything that we can actually see and use today that's an actual supply and demand zone? And Whew, it really isn't. This area right here is interesting, right? But we'll just call it that, right? It's not an actual zone, but it's an area of interest. So just watch it. If price gets in here and you can see it like it's going to turn around, you might get a little bump out of it. But I wouldn't expect this thing to move the market in any significant manner. All right, let's move over to Forex markets now, and we only look at a couple of them for now. Again, if you guys want to see more or have different ones you want to look at, just put it in the chat there or send us a comment, and we'll take a look at that and change up the process for you. This right here, so this is a perfect example of what happens when you have those announcements that we looked at on Forex Factory, where when they are red like this, can be what happens. So I'll start with a 240-minute chart right here. Sorry about that. Every once in a while I'll misclick that and close the chart instead of opening it. Let's get this back set up again. And all right, so our comments yesterday were, these zones here were good-looking zones, but they're still really all in this general area, and so we weren't anticipating them to work out extremely well, and especially in the light of an announcement and the Fed chairman testifying yesterday. And so that's what happened, right? He testified, and some of the information that came out of it you caused both the dollar and the euro, a couple of other currencies, to spike really bad. And as you can see, right, it just blew through these areas here just completely. Like they didn't even exist. So just another, this is why it's important to look at places like Forex Factory, understand what is going on, and then just manage your trades accordingly. You can sometimes use these to take advantage of them if they're moving them into much higher time frame zones, typically in the daily, weekly, even monthly areas. But anything lower than that, those types of events can spike right through them. So again, just an example of why we do this, this is part of our day trading setup process here. So I'm going to go ahead and just kill these off because clearly they did not work at all. And just real quick, back on the daily time frame, just to get context for where we're at right now. Overall, significant move down. And actually, I meant to show why that was the case. And I'll go back to the dollar and explain that. I do still think we could get a correction in this down move. So correction back up into this area here. This is one that I'm very, very interested in. I think it's a very high probability that if we get price back up into here and we get just one other indicator, whether that's like a Bollinger Band 1, negative divergence on RSI, or maybe a zone on the dollar, this could end up being a very, very big move that you get in for a much stronger move back down again. So the reason why these markets are moving the way that they are right now, just again go back and show this because I don't know that I have recently. This is all being driven off of the dollar coming into this monthly zone, right? So again, we've talked about this before, right? The higher the time frame, the stronger the zones are, the more they're going to work, and the longer they're going to work here. So on our monthly chart, you had the dollar come right down into this zone right here, popped out of it, came back down, couldn't break any lower than this, and now is moving up, and it's actually creating additional demand zones below it, right? You've got one right here, you've got another one right here in this area. So that's just another indication of just a very, very strong dollar. This thing could continue moving up at least until we get to about the $99 or a $100 range here. But that's why this market's moving up the way it is, which means the euro is moving down. So just kind of wanted to set that really bigger picture context there. Why I keep saying the euro has a ways to go down. So just back over there. Right, that's so we're looking to get back in on that move down once this correction has happened. Back over to our 60-minute chart, just see if there's anything that's available to us for the day. And I think I messed this one up here when I was closing that chart out, so I'll reset that. Again, we had this area that was very close in on the the news from yesterday, and that's why it blew right through that area here. We do see that this zone, this supply zone up above here, is continuing to work very, very well, which is a little bit unusual, right? Typically speaking, these don't work this well multiple times in a row. That's why we typically don't take them that way. However, that's why I keep them marked on there, and use that, track them, and if they work enough for you, where you're seeing that your zones are strong enough where you can take them 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then that can be a good input to your own trading plan. Just shows me though that this is a very strong area, and that if price goes above here, it really would have taken out a lot of the buy or the sell orders here. So price could continue to move up from there in a pretty reasonable way. Again, I'm not going to look into getting any longs here because I still think this is in the overall downtrend. So we're not going to even look for any longs coming up from there. Real quick on a 15-minute chart just to see if there's anything that we would take advantage of today. And the problem with having these massive moves in the previous day is unless they set up another zone themselves, it usually means you can't trade anywhere in here. And you can see basically you just had 2 solid candles. There's no zones here. So don't try and get into anything, short time frame or small in these areas here. Wait till we get above, or below this if you're looking for anything additional there. All right, let's move over to our USD JPY pair. And again, this is since the USD, the US dollar part, is the first currency in this pair. It does mimic the dollar, so you're seeing that it has that same move down right now that the dollar is going through. However, we are looking at this as more of an overall uptrend. Or sorry, let me pull this up here. Yeah, overall uptrend here once we clear this area right in here. And this is an area that these 2 currencies aren't directly correlated, like the euro and the dollar are. So these zones are going to be in a little bit different places. Again, just another indication when they do line up, it just means you're highly probable that area is going to work very, very well. Nothing of interest here until quite a bit lower, so we won't spend a whole lot of time here. Let's look on our 240 chart. And I've just got this area down below that I'm still interested in here at 112.226. Let me just pop that open so you can see that a little bit better. Very interested in this area here. And this could be a longer term trade because we're getting outside of all of this white space right here. So when this one comes in, you might want to set your target a little bit further out for this one and not take that shorter day trade target. Let's see, just pop over to our 60-minute chart, see if there's anything smaller time frame. We had this area here that was already used a couple days ago. It's now gone completely through it, and let's see, looking at it now, there's just nothing here. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. Let's go ahead and move over into our futures markets. Oil. So we talked about this. Remember, we broke through that weekly zone after moving after it bouncing a little bit on it. Again, just real quick to show context, we still haven't taken out this recent pivot low, so we're still in the uptrend. But there's nothing that we're going to take here, right? There's no zones that are appropriate for us to be looking at these high time frames. So that's why I said this yesterday, right? We're just going to wait. We're going to wait until oil tells us when it's ready to start trading again. Right now, it's just too volatile, and it's not. You can just look here, right? You're looking down and left, and there's no zones that this is responding to. So until we get a zone, we have indicators of where price is going, but we aren't confident in it. So we don't, our process doesn't allow us to guess. We want to know. All right. There's nothing on a 240-minute time frame. Let me just look at the 60. And this is still. So what you've got here is the still strong move down, right? But we've got now some negative divergence on RSI, where you've got price moving down and RSI moving up significantly here. So that's just an indicator that price may be moving back up, or actually it did do this correction here. We've already seen that, but again it didn't hit a zone, so that's why we're not taking it. We would need price to keep moving up and start taking out some of these pivot highs that are over here before we're confident that we had actually turned and we're back in it. Worst case, a neutral trend versus an uptrend, and we don't want to take counter trend trades unless they hit some very, very specific rules for us. But I'm also not seeing anything up and left here that's going to tell me to stay into this long as well. So sometimes the markets just aren't clear, and when they're not clear, we stay away from them. We don't. Again, we want to know. We don't want to guess here. All right, 15-minute time frame. Sometimes you can get a really good day trade on something like crude oil, even if the bigger picture isn't clear. So again, we're not going to take any counter trend trades. So you're not really looking to move up here. So I go up and left to see if I can get into another short, and there's nothing here. So I'm just going to stay away from oil for today, and we'll wait another day to see if we get any additional clarification. Moving over to gold. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday. You're still seeing the very sporadic candles. You can see them, especially over here on the 2-minute chart up in this area. Just means gold is in the middle of a contract rollover time frame, so we got to be very careful here. One of the things you can do is just go to a contract specific chart. I'll demonstrate that right now. Right, this is our continuous chart, which puts stitches all of the contracts together. But if you go look at and I'll put it up here. I'll get the right contract in here for you. GCG22 is the current contract now. And if you have any questions on what contracts are trading and stuff like that, what I found the most useful information that I found is barchart.com. That's where I get all of my contract information on. It gives you a really good snapshot of what contracts exist, what the volume is on it, what dates and times that they open and close, all of that. So you'll see a very different picture on this one, right? So the contract specific chart, when it gets a little weird and spotty like the other one was, I'll typically move over to a contract specific chart and look at this for a few days until the other one settles down, and then move back over to it. So big picture, right? We're still in this almost a corrective move down, since we had started almost a trend back up again, but we're still, you can still see, right? This is just a giant bunch of white space here, and unless something really, really big jumps out at us, we stay away from it. So nothing to see on the daily chart to interest us. 240-minute chart. Without zooming in on it, I'm just going to look up and left real quick. I don't see anything down and left. Yeah, there's nothing here. I'm just not going to waste my time trying to find something just so that I can get a trade on this, right? We're looking for, again, highly probable areas. I would say I probably missed this one the other day when we were looking at it. Right, you did have a really good formation here of this rally candle in 2 base candles, drop, base, drop. This specific type of formation is generally a fairly powerful one, and so drawing this out like this, I think we didn't do this one because we weren't sure if we were in a downtrend or not, but probably need to pay a little bit more attention to these when they do come up, because 60 minutes and up are good zones for gold. Anything lower than that, it can tend to just jump through it pretty quickly. So I'll do a little bit better job of catching these so we can get them on our radar and potentially take them. So just move these to dotted lines here, and then just for reference, I don't think I put this in the legend, but if you ever see a circle here for me, it means I missed it. Right. So it's kind of like my own little admonishment that I wasn't paying enough attention and should have caught something. There's nothing else that I'm seeing here on a 60-minute chart. Let me just jump down to a 15 just to see if there's anything that really does jump out at us. And yeah, I can look at this quickly enough and just say that there isn't. All right, let's move on to Japanese. Sorry, not Japanese. Natural gas. We're still in this pretty significant a down move now. We did start this downtrend. I use that term a little bit loosely right now, but as you can see here, we've got a few, lower highs. Now we've got 2 of those in a row, and now we've got 1, 2, 3 lower lows. So we are officially now in a downtrend on the daily time frame, which means we could look for additional shorts here, and until we get to another very strong zone that we think is going to change direction. So I think we actually just saw that on the 240-minute chart, though. We've got this zone that we popped right into overnight, actually just in the last 4-hour time frame here. And I've got one of these drawn. Yeah, this one is drawn as a strong zone, the one that's in right now. The other one is a potential, just because of the size of it. That's a lot of risk to take on natural gas. So you want to look for confirmation of price changing in here, and you can see price went very, very deep into this zone. Let me blow that up for you, right? But so we're looking for price to come back out of here. However, we are in the downtrend on a daily chart, so this is, this isn't a strong recommendation to trade this moving back up again. And as I'm looking up and left, I'm still not seeing anything that I'm interested in, and this looks like it's turning into a downtrend, so I'm not going to look for anything lower here until we get to like a daily time frame or above. So on a 60-minute chart, anything that we want to get back into here, moving this down. Okay, looking up and left. I'll call this an area of interest. However, we have just a small leg candle in here, 3 base candles, a very, very strong leg candle out. The reason why I'm even drawing this out, that very, very strong leg candle out followed by a couple of additional down candles does mean that this is a strong area of imbalance. As I look left, though, it's a little bit busy right here, and so that makes me hesitate on this. However, we did just confirm that we're in a downtrend here, so if this sets up with some white space right in this area here, maybe goes on out into the next day or two, then this becomes a more likely area to take. But I'll go ahead and draw it out anyways, and we'll track this one too. Jumping down to a 15-minute time frame, anything here that we're interested in looking at, and we have one that formed and almost hit overnight, right? So we've got this base drop right here. Now, I look left. I can see that price did change direction 2 times in this general area here. So those are good indicators. Price has already come up to this twice and bounced off of it, which definitely means that there is some imbalance here. However, I'm concerned that we may have already missed this entry, that we probably should have gotten into it down here further. So just, if you're going to take this one, look at price action on a 2-minute chart as it comes up into here. If you see negative divergence or it forming an additional supply zone in here, take it. If you don't see that, then I would stay away from this one today. All right, Nikkei, again, this is a really good correlation market for us, but one that we also trade. So again, Japanese market's been open for a while now, so this gives us a good indication of what we might see when the U.S. market's open, and we've got a little bit of strength here, which we are seeing reflected in at least the U.S. futures markets. We are still in this overall white space area right here, right? We really need price to break down through here before we would be wanting to get in on anything long back in this market. And once we do, then this is the area where you would stay in this for, you know, a longer period of time, but nothing that is close for us right now. 240-minute time frame. So what you're seeing here is, you know, price is forming these additional supply zones as it moves down, and these are working. This is another good indication that you're still in this downtrend, right? Because this is I mean, technically speaking, this whole thing is the zone. Leg candle in, 2 base candles, small leg candle out, another leg candle out though. So this was kind of your indication with 2 leg candles out why this one would have worked. It's so far down in the overall move, and when I look left, I don't see anything back here. So that's why it wouldn't have triggered me to set this up. But these are just, again, you can, even the zones that are messy that we wouldn't take as trades, we still mark them because they're again indicators of what price is doing, and it is continuing to just keep moving down overall in a bigger time frame. So we'll just mark that as a dotted line because it's been used, but it hasn't, price hasn't gone through it yet. So that's why we just want to note that for us. Looking up and left again, there isn't anything that I'm seeing that's interesting to get in on a 60-minute time frame. Do we want to keep taking advantage of these shorts? And so I was to say this does almost look like an interesting area right here where the mouse is going around. However, yeah, it's when I zoom in on it, it's just too messy, right? There isn't a distinct leg candle in the middle of all of this formation to split these 2 other leg candles out from. So we won't even bother with that. And because of the volume on the Nikkei, I usually don't go lower than a 60-minute time frame. So that's why we'll keep moving on. So bonds. So bonds are just been very, very interesting. A lot more strength than I would have expected. Typically speaking, we use the bonds as opposite correlations to the index markets. So typically when one of those is going up, the other one is going down. However, recently, you know, it's been a little bit muddier, right? And so when that happens, you know that there just aren't good indications of where it's going. So that's why we can sometimes stay away from either taking a smaller time frame trade or really look for that additional validation that this particular one is going to work for us. So bigger picture here on a daily time frame, we did come ever so close to getting in on this trade up here. And again, I had the entry set, you know, a little bit higher in because bonds typically will do that, right? They won't stop right on the very edge of these zones. But as you can see here, right, so it went all the way up to 132.01.5, and my entry point was set at 132.3. Had we gotten in on that one, right, the trade would have already worked for our 4-to-1, so we know that that's at least an area of strong imbalance. And so we may end up just seeing price just continue down from here. It won't even come back up and actually trigger the trade. It may just keep moving down. So keeping that in mind as we look at some of our other smaller time frames on a 240-minute chart, right, we're still coming back up from this area here. We did wick above these previous pivot highs here, but we didn't close. So a body of a candle didn't print itself above this line. So we don't say that these were taken out yet until we actually get that candle to close the body of the candle above there. It's another good indication that this may just continue in this overall trend down, but there isn't anything that we can take here. Going to our 60-minute time frame. Is there anything on here that we're interested in looking at? And just the only thing that I can see here that, you know, from a formation perspective is we've got a couple down here in this area. This one you would have to consider already used, right? It didn't actually hit it right here, but it's close enough. I wouldn't use this one again. But you do have these other ones here that are, technically speaking, these are zones. They meet our structure requirements. If I look left from this one, I'm seeing just it's messy and price isn't moving significantly there, so that's why I wouldn't do this. Remember, we're also still believe this isn't a bigger picture trend down, right? And so that's why when if we go long here, we just want to be cautious about it. Don't want to go for long periods of time. Get down to this one here though, and I can look here, right? Almost to the same area, price change direction here. It did bounce off of this area right here. I go a little bit further left. I can see there's a little bit more price movement here. So there's a chance that getting down into this level here, which gets us out of this white space, yes, this could potentially work. But I would say it's a shorter move, not a longer move back up. All right, done so we're getting the same thing here that we saw in gold, right, where the candles are getting a little sporadic on our 15-minute chart. You can really see on the 2-minute chart, it means we're about to hit or roll over. So again, if you wanted to look at deeper down into the smaller time frames here, go to the contract specific chart for these ones. I'm not interested in that right now, so we'll skip over and look at our US bonds. So this is a 30-year bond, and looking at this on a daily time frame, right? Same thing. We're still moving up. We didn't quite get entry in when we came down here to this area below, and there's nothing above that we're interested in looking at either, where we think price is going to change, until we get up outside of this white space area here. But again, price has not yet taken this previous pivot high out, so we're not in an uptrend yet. We're still in a sideways trend. So let's go look on smaller time frames to see if there's anything that we can use here. And looking at our 240-minute, again, haven't taken this pivot high out yet. There's nothing above and to the left that could potentially change it. And looking down and left, the only thing that we have here is we do have this tiny little area right here, which is technically a zone. Look left, you can see price did change in these areas a couple of times. But again, unless we're in a confirmed uptrend at this point, this is not a very strong zone. We'll put it that way. But it does fit the formation, so let's at least track it. Okay, all right, moving on now. Actually, it's a 60-minute time frame. I want to take a look at this one, see if there's any good day trades in here for us potentially. We're starting to see, you can see here, we've got the little gaps in price. So even on a 60-minute time frame, this contract rollover is starting to impact what this price chart looks like. However, we do have this area right here, which again technically meets our qualifications for a zone. If I take it, it would be a shorter trade. I'm not going to look to stay in this very long, but it may end up being a pretty reasonable day trade. So I'm going to mark it. All right. Let's move on to our index futures now. So ES is still responding to this overall area here, and what you'll see is when we look between the ES and the NQ, the NASDAQ, ES did kind of go right below where we had the line drawn right here, which technically speaking, it should have been a little bit lower, right? If I look at the low for this candle here is, let's see, 450, 45, 59, 25. So I would have gone, a little bit below that, which really wouldn't, if I'd have drawn this correctly, right, and precisely, it still wouldn't have gone below it. What you'll find out on the NASDAQ, though, is it didn't even come close to clearing this area. So using those in combination with each other just made us understand this was a very, very strong area, and one that we could reliably use as long as we had that additional confirmations in here. And we do see prices continuing to move up from these areas. So with that information, we go look at our 240-minute chart here, and you'll see we did get the nice little negative divergence here, which is why this would have allowed us to use this particular area, right? Price going lower and RSI going higher. And this happened in a higher time frame zone, so those have to happen at the same time. Right? We don't just use RSI on its own. But that would have been a good indication to go ahead and take this trade out of here and move up. And as you can see, we are moving up now. And what we're interested in doing, I know I posted this a day or two ago. There was one area we were looking at was the 46.65 area that we needed to break to confirm that price was moving up, and we didn't. That was right in this area, right here where price moved back down again. This is again the area that we have to take out, right, to confirm this trend change, right? Because right now we're on a 240-minute time frame. We're in a downtrend, right? Lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. We take this area right here out, and price closes above 46.70 now. That will confirm that our trend has changed. That's when you want to look into getting into the smaller time frame long positions from there. Okay, on a 60-minute chart, where can we get into? We did have this one worked very, very well for us. This was our indicator, their lower time frame entry point for that bigger daily zone. But that has now been used. So big picture, where do we sit on our 60-minute time frame? We're still in this downtrend, right? On the lower time frame. That's why you wouldn't take like a 15-minute, long position right now, because you're in a confirmed downtrend on your 60-minute chart. So this is the area we're talking about, right? This is the 46.70. If price breaks past here, confirm trend change, jump in on whatever additional longs that show up for you there. But I'm not seeing anything that I want to use to get into and continue on this short either. And also knowing that we're coming up out of that daily area also makes me not want to really take it there. On a 15-minute chart, is there anything that we like that we could get into and continue to take this down? Again, for a short period of time, index markets are built to go up, so we don't want to stay in shorts too well unless we're in a confirmed bigger picture downtrend. As I look up and left here, this area right here is a little too messy. We don't want to take that. And anything that shows up in here, right? This is overnight trading, so we want to be very careful. Overnight trading, when the U.S. markets are open, those zones are typically weaker overall, and we just got to be very cautious with them. So nothing here that I want to get into on ES. So let's go jump over to NASDAQ. You'll see a little bit better picture of that daily area that we were talking about. Right, and this is just one of our very strong correlation indicators. Zones show up in the same place on the same time frame for more than one index. Usually a pretty good indication that it's going to work. And as you can see here, this did, and it continues to. Price doesn't even come back down into this area at all on NQ. Like right now, tech stocks, are much stronger than other ones, and so that's the reason why Nasdaq's a little bit stronger than some of the other markets right now. All right, so what do we like on our 240-minute time frame here? We are in the middle now of creating a bunch of white space. So let me just draw this a little bit, like all that, right? We're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So we need price to get outside of this before we would take anything. We've got this area of interest down here, and that would clear out this particular white space, and nothing that we're going to get into short here, because overall we're still in an uptrend on the daily time frame. Jumping down to our 60-minute chart, same thing, right? We've got the white space here, and I'll just very quickly, without zooming in, down the left, nothing up. I'm certainly not going to get anything short on this market right now. on a 15-minute time frame. So this is a sideways trend, so you could technically take either direction on here. Just remember these should be very short trades. You're not looking for anything long in this time frame. I've got some pretty good picture looking down here for potentially getting back into a long. My only hesitation is, again, this is the first one is an overnight area, and so you've got this area right here, right? We've got this candle formation that we're looking for. You look left, price did change direction here. You look left again, price changed direction here. But this is overnight trading, and once the market opens up, it could potentially blow through that. If you want to, though, both of these areas look good. Again, these are overnight zones, so just be very cautious about them. I'm going to leave them up just to track. We'll see what they did throughout the day. This area down here, right, so this one was created in the US open market, so it's much stronger. It's also right below all the overnight trading, which tends to work out too. We'll get into this a little bit, in another session. These are called traps, right? Where you've got a zone right outside of either below or above the overnight trading area, and that's just another indicator. Those work more often than other zones if this particular setup is in place. So I would actually mark this one as a much more probable area. These other two, if you're going to use them, be careful. Overnight trading is it's a strike against that particular zone. Okay, let's look at RTY real quick. There's no comments, questions in the chat, so we'll just keep moving forward. Big picture on RTY, right? All this white space right here. We needed to get through this, and then we talked a little bit about these two areas yesterday, why they're interesting. The only way that they're interesting for us is if price comes back below all of these areas and changes the overall trend. So that's why they're dashed lines for now. Price moves down, clears these, we would change those to solid lines and actually look to take them. But right now they're just areas of interest for us. On a 240-minute time frame, I'll just look at this very quickly. I don't see anything below that we want interested in, and still nothing above because we're not in a downtrend yet. 60-minute time frame, we did bring this one up yesterday, since on a 60-minute we are in a downtrend, and this zone here does a couple things for us. It clears out this white space area. When we look left here, we can see it took out all of these pivot lows right here, right? And again, on just a shorter time frame, we are in a downtrend, so that's why it's okay to take this continuing down, even though it's an index market. All right, jumping down real quick to the 15-minute. Let's just see if there's anything that we're interested in here. Again, we are still very low time frames in a downtrend. If price goes past this area right here, this would be a trend change, take us to neutral. So just be careful if that happens of whether, what direction you're going to go in. And I'm just going to look at this real quick, and I don't see anything that I'm interested in here in drawing out. Okay, let's from RTY, let's go ahead and look at, I want to show you again our the TLT index that we looked at the other day, just because we did draw a couple of zones out here that did work to some degree. I just wanted to kind of demonstrate that. But then why that they worked initially, and then why they ended up busting through them. So what we had, price came. So this was 2 days ago. Price came right up into this area here. You can see on your chart, like this candle barely touched in here onto this zone, and then if you would have held this, overnight, this was a really, really good trade, right? Price opened down here at the bottom of this candle, so that would have hit your target, and you would have been in and out of this trade, literally in just a couple of hours. Very, very, very good, good area here. Let's go ahead and mark this one off. Then the next day, right, price came right back up and went up into this zone, popped down, would have given us a 1-to-1 here right before it came back up. So this one would be ended up being a break-even trade instead of working. But so you had both of those trades and set them both right. One worked, one broke even. So overall, you made money on this deal here. The reason why we didn't think it was going to be a very strong one, we're still looking for that the TY, the 10-year bond, to move up into its daily zone. Had that happened in correlation with the TLT, these zones would have worked in a much stronger fashion. But we didn't get that additional confirmation that these were going to be that those bigger move down ones. But I just wanted to show that after we drew that up the other day of what worked, what didn't, and a little bit of indication as to why. So overall on TLTs, again, remember this is a 20-year bond, and we've got 10 and 30-year in our futures. So these are, again, good correlation markets that we can use to confirm with each other that they're going to work. We're starting to see now here we got on a daily chart, we got a little bit of negative divergence on RSI, right? Price moved up a little bit here. Look down at RSI chart, price is moving down a bit. So that's just another good indicator that if price does come up into the 10-year futures area, we've got more indications that trade is going to work out for us. All right, a few minutes left here, so let's look at some crypto. Start with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has decided it's going to just sit for now, right? So you look here on our daily chart, and what we got, right? It's just back and forth. Price is rarely getting outside of its own daily candles here. So from bigger time frame, we're not doing anything with this at all. Just because it is sitting here staring at us, let's draw it out. This technically is a zone right here. But again, we are not in a downtrend. And Bitcoin is, because it's considered a hedge market right now for the other markets, any weakness in the major index markets, and this is just going to keep going up and up and up. So, but it is an area to watch. So we'll take a look at it. I would not expect this to hold though. Okay. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one, right? You can see here on the lower right-hand corner, 240-minute chart, a lot of white space. We got areas of interest above. Again, crypto, be careful taking any of these short right now. So there really isn't anything to look at here overall. Let's check out Ethereum. A little bit stronger on Ethereum. So just real quick from a daily perspective, right? We're getting back close to that, another all-time high. However, when you look at your RSI chart down below, here you are seeing the potential negative divergence if price comes back up and sets a new high up here. So just pay attention to that. Look for a correction there, but not a trade. Just looking at price movement. We drew this area out yesterday, I think, because technically speaking, right, it fits our criteria, and we were really interested in if price was going to take out this pivot low down here to actually change the trend direction. We didn't. We're not in a downtrend, but it is a neutral trend. So, if depending on what your rules are, you may have taken this one, and we did get a little bit of indication on a 60-minute time frame that this was worth taking. If you did, you would have already had a break-even mark on here, whether you took that half your trade at 1-to-1 or just moved your stop up on this one. But there was some indication that this could have worked. Low probability. All right, and what we did is we said to go ahead and draw that zone out on the lower time frame. So from a 240 you go down to a 60, and what you have been looking for here is the negative RSI, negative divergence on RSI, and we got it right. Price came up in here, price went up, RSI went down. You see that here? So that would have been your indication to potentially take this. But again, it's not with the trend. It's very high in this market. These markets are, considered hedge markets against, weakness in the indexes. Just be very careful going short on these unless you're in a confirmed, downtrend. I'll leave this on here though. Just we'll monitor it and see how it works out overall. Take a look at Litecoin. Litecoin's a little bit weaker than the other ones, and so when we look at our daily chart here, we do have this area that already hit almost as soon as it was created, and has moved down, probably about a 2, maybe 3 to 1. Wouldn't have hit our target yet, but just know that this area is up here. It actually has been used, so let me go ahead and change that to a dotted line. Wouldn't expect this to work again. So if it comes back up in there, just expect it to go right through that area. But with that, we did draw these areas here on our 60-minute chart. And since we are still in a downtrend at this time frame, these were worth looking at. And what we had ended up happening here. So we treated this, talked about this yesterday, right? We treated this gap as an actual red candle. That's why we call these zones. This one would have been a break-even one. And again, this is following my rules of having these bigger areas here with 2 separate zones in them instead of one single one. Depending on what your rules are, you may have drawn this, as one single zone here. In which case, you're still in this trade. I'm looking more that the price is going to come up into this upper area and then drop down here. That's just my rules. What I have seen works better. I like the lower risk profiles of these, and I'm willing to take something like this where price went right between the 2 zones that I had and then moved down. I'll take that versus the increased risk of having those bigger zones. All right, we've got just about 3 minutes left. Let's take a quick look. I'm going to kind of blaze through a bunch of stocks. I'm just going to look at them and see if there's anything that I had previously drawn up here that's worth, showing. So we won't dig in and do any analysis on them. I'll just look for, previous zones that I have that we may be approaching on any of these. Just for reference point, there's no rhyme or reason to the stocks that I have here, other than at some point in time I found them interesting. But that's really it. There isn't any. I don't like pick stocks based on any particular reason. There isn't any real structure to it. So Boeing Airlines here. We are in a nice daily zone right here. You can see price is hanging out in here quite a bit, but it's a strong area. It would not surprise me at all to see price come back up out of here. If it does, look for it to go all the way past all of this white space here, and maybe even up into this 300 area range. All right, CVI. So Chevron got nothing that's coming up close on this one. Delta Airlines. The only thing I would point out here is, we've got a monthly zone coming up. So look, down to, once you get down to the 31 range, you could potentially see price move back up out of there. Let's see, Ford. I don't think I have anything on Ford. General Dynamics. So we had, so this was a previous daily zone that worked out really well. It has now gone back down through it. Interestingly enough, so this was one trade that I actually had in one of my retirement accounts here. You can see, I'll zoom in on this real quick, right? So price came up into it, came back down. My rule state, they closed part of the trade out at a 1-to-1, just kind of more of a hedge against additional risk, and I had my stop set right here at the 209.27. You can see price went just a little bit above that and came right back down. So A little bit bummed that I didn't stay in this trade, but that's the rules, and you follow them. That's the only way to be successful there. But you are seeing that this weekly zone here, this is a weekly one, right? So I probably should have given it a little bit more room to play. This weekly one is working. If it does come down and clear this area down in here, I would look for it to continue all the way down to probably that 165 or so area. Let's see, I've got just look at two more here. General Electric. You can see we do have a monthly zone coming up at this 8606. Take a look at that, and let's look at GME, GameStop. Had a lot of fun with GameStop, when it went through its machinations a couple of months ago. It's actually turned into a pretty reasonable stock now up at these heights, and is actually responding pretty well to supply and demand. But I don't have anything drawn out on here. So with that, let's go ahead and close up for the day. Thank you guys very much for participating in this, for being part of the community, and being part of the channel. Again, comment. Let us know how we're doing. If there's anything that you'd like to see changed, we're happy to review that. Have a great and safe trading day today. See you again tomorrow at 8:15 Eastern for another live day trading setup.